A disastrous Sunday for Donald Trump. He woke up and made the following post. It is a post of his portrait from 2017 to 2021, his current portrait in the White House, which is a mugshot photo of him, essentially. And then this is what Donald Trump is posting this morning from his official account. Former President Biden, a photo of an auto pen in order to mock former President Biden. Now, Donald, if that helps you to just kind of bully and to mock and to teach the nation how leaders are not supposed to behave, I mean, we can look at the actual data, because under former President Biden, the economy was in pretty good shape. Now under you, even Apollo, a private equity firm that no one would say is a bastion for liberals or lefties. So let's be clear. We're talking about Apollo. They're putting out a new report saying that consumer sentiment is declining rapidly right now, both for households making more than $100,000 and less than $100,000. But that's not stopping Donald Trump's Sunday in Mar-A-Lago, where he's vacationing. As I previously reported this morning, they're doing a Birkin bag party, pink Birkin bags that are valued at $445,000, gold Birkin bags. They're displaying those at Mar-A-Lago, the most kind of lavish displays of wealth. That's what they're doing with Donald Trump and his billionaire friends at Mar-A-Lago, while Donald Trump is sending the following message to his supporters on his email list. Please, Ben, please. Today is my deadline. I subscribe so you don't have to share with you what he's saying. We just launched the presidential fundraising blitz to meet my goal. This is very important to me. Do you still support Trump and Doge? Yes or no? Take the poll. Then he sends this one. Special offer from Trump, friend. Your interview is just about to start. What interview? And I'm really excited to read your responses. I've instructed my team to conduct an initial screening for the official 2025 Trump Advisory Board application. I sent this to you first because I already know you'll make it past the first round, but you have to answer before we shut it down. Then when you click, it then brings you to a page where you give his campaign money. Not exactly sure what he's campaigning for, other than to further plummet his approval ratings. So then Donald Trump sent his surrogates on the various Sunday shows. And even last night, he sent his surrogates to try to justify the horrific economy, the plummeting GDP, the tanking of our markets. So one of the people he sent is MAGA Mike Johnson. And MAGA Mike Johnson dyed his face Trump. Like, they're literally going out there now and they're like painting their faces to look like Trump in the MAGA cult. I mean, he's all Botoxed up. I mean, look at MAGA Mike Johnson. Look at these photos right here. As Anarchy Princess said, Speaker Johnson has been replaced with a lookalike. What is the deep state hiding? Molly Jungfast goes, contouring with bronzer isn't for everyone or maybe anyone. Here's what MAGA Mike Johnson has to say. Here, play this clip.
Now we have President Trump back. He has a great team in place. He has willing partners in the House and Senate, unified government. The adults are back in the room, okay? And we are going to turn this economy around. We need a little runway to do it. I keep using this metaphor of a aircraft carrier. You know, it took decades to get into the mess that we're in. You don't turn an aircraft carrier on a dime, but you need miles of open ocean to do it. But we have begun that turn.
You see MAGA Mike Johnson, and then the language that they use. The adults are back in the room, and we are going to turn this economy around. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Let me show you the headline from the Wall Street Journal, which said in 2024 that there was a Goldilocks economy and that the American economy was the envy of the world. Former President Biden had record GDP growth. We were beating China. We were energy independent. We had low unemployment. We had record job growth, 16.4 million jobs created. We had 40,000 infrastructure projects going up across the country. Former President Biden was lowering prescription drug prices. Red states, blue states, purple states were all benefiting. The Atlanta Federal Reserve and others predicted that if Trump just did nothing and let former President Biden's economy go on autopilot, the economy would have had 3 to 4% GDP growth in this quarter. And now we're seeing expectations of a negative 2.5% GDP. In other words, a GDP contraction in the first quarter. According to the University of Michigan, consumer sentiment is some of the lowest it's ever been. Inflation expectations, the lowest since 1993. Job expectations, the lowest since 1987. Here was Donald Trump, by the way, when he was going to this vacation in Mar-A-Lago from this past weekend. You can see that he can't really even walk up these short stairs of Marine One. Here, play this clip. As I mentioned, Donald Trump was sending his surrogates out. Like, this is Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz. He was asked on Fox, how do you know that Trump isn't being played by Putin right now? Because it seems that Putin is playing Trump like a fiddle. Here's what Mike Waltz has to say.
Along the border, how do you know President Trump isn't being played right now by Putin?
Well, look, that's almost laughable. I'll take
What's interesting is Walt says that on Fox. Then he goes on ABC on Sunday morning. And here's what he has to say about Ukraine. Play this clip.
For then, this is going to be some type of territory for future security guarantees, the future status of Ukraine. We've talked about, as Secretary of Defense has said at the NATO Defense Ministerial, that a pathway, a permanent pathway into NATO or permanent membership into NATO for Ukraine.
So on the one hand, he says that Trump isn't being played by Putin, but then he literally does Putin talking points, saying that Ukraine should never join NATO. So you're going to just take off the table one of the most important things to Ukraine. Seems like the weakest posture to be involved in a negotiation to say that. And you're saying that Ukraine needs to give its land to Russia. Also, over the past 48 hours, Donald Trump has been reposting Putin propaganda and talking points that Ukrainian troops are encircled by the Russians and that Donald Trump wants to spare the lives of the Ukrainians with Putin. And Ukraine had to respond. Zelensky had to respond, and the defense forces had to respond. Okay, that's just false. That's what Putin's telling, the people in Russia. That's just not what's happening in Ukraine. And go check earlier today where I covered the powerful meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, which does not include the U.S. in Europe, a virtual meeting led by Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK. President Emmanuel Macron of France was there. Other European nations, Canada attended, how they're going to stand by Ukraine and not allow Trump and Putin to just cut out Europe and Ukraine from negotiations. Here is Donald Trump's other envoy, Steve Witkoff, going on CNN. And here he says that he believes that Putin shares Trump's philosophy. I think we know that. Play this clip.
So as Secretary Rubio puts it, is it now clear that Putin is the impediment to peace right now?
I think, look, I don't want to put words in President Putin's mouth, but I think he's indicated that he accepts the philosophy of President.
And then finally, let me share this with you right here. This is Trump Secretary Scott Bessent. Before playing you this clip, let me show you Scott Bessent's home so you can see for yourself. He lives in a real-life version of Barbie's mansion. This is actually his home in Charleston, South Carolina, valued at about $22.5 million. And here he is, Scott Bessent, going on the morning shows. And here he's saying, look, the American dream is not having flat screens and buying things. Who cares if the price goes up? That's what he's saying. As Matthew Iglesias explains, I guess when you already own a $22 million mansion, and I'll say a prototype of, or a real life version rather of Barbie's mansion, it's easy to sneer at the value of affordable, durable goods. But here's what the Trump regime is saying today. Let's play it.
I ask you about something that you actually said last week, and we'll discuss it on the other side. Take a look.
Access to cheap goods is not the essence of the American dream. The American dream is rooted in the concept that any citizen can achieve prosperity, upward mobility, and economic security.
Mr. Secretary, are you there essentially saying that the Trump administration is comfortable to have consumers pay more for goods in America?
Not at all, Kristen. What I was saying is the American dream is not let them eat flat screens. That if American families aren't able to afford a home, don't believe that their children will do better than they are. The American dream is not contingent on cheap baubles from China, that it is more than that, and we are focused on affordability, but it's mortgages, it's cars, it's real wage gains.
Do you acknowledge?
And I got to give a shout out here to Democratic Congress member Jake Auchincloss, who went on Fox, went into hostile territory, and here he just explained, look, you've got these MAGAs mocking the American people, screwing over people, and saying, oh, it's going to be bumpy and rough and terrible for you, but you deserve it, while giving tax cuts to the billionaires. Here, play this clip.
Right now, this economy is inflationary right now. We are seeing spikes in home insurance, in car insurance, in utility bills, in food bills, in the cost to buy a new automobile. And you know what the Republicans' response to this is? Their response to this is, well, get ready for a rocky ride. And by the way, we're going to give tax cuts to the top 20% of earners in this country and pay for it by taking away health care from people who need health care. By taking away health care from kids who need it for primary care, from seniors who need it from at-home care, from people struggling with opioid use disorder. This is not going to scrub with the American people, and Republicans are responding by avoiding town halls so they don't have to take the tough questions.
And if you want to see exactly what these MAGA Republicans are saying, on that same show, they then had Senator Bernie Moreno from Ohio, and he basically says the same thing. Let's play it.
American production might not happen at all. S&P Global is forecasting a massive production halt for the auto industry, with the probability of an extended disruption at 50%. It reads, with tariffs now imposed on Canada and Mexico, we expect significant disruption in the region. S&P Global Mobility sees potential for North American production to drop by up to 20,000 units per day within a week. We now expect that the tariff posture, messaging, and coverage through 2025 will be erratic, placing automakers and suppliers mid or long-term vehicle and facility planning in virtual gridlock. That does not sound like a manufacturing boom.
Well, look, these experts are funded by lobbyists who have an agenda. Look, it's very simple. I talk to car company CEOs from all over the world every single solitary week. And the consistent message is we're going to build more in America.
Lastly, here's Donald Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, this weekend attacking federal judges and saying that all these federal judges are issuing injunctions against Donald Trump. Here, let's play it.
He has been facing more resistance than anyone who has ever run for office in American history. And the mainstream media is part of that. But also, as you mentioned, we have judges in our judicial branch who are acting as activists, not real arbiters of the law. And there has been 15 injunctions in 1 month of President Trump's agenda.
And one of the things that she's talking about is that a federal judge in Washington, D.C. issued an injunction blocking Donald Trump's declaration of war powers under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The judge blocked it for a 14-day period while the parties briefed these issues, where Trump is saying that the country of Venezuela via Venezuelan gangs have declared war on the United States, and thus Trump is now a wartime president. And because he's at war, he can unilaterally take migrants who he deems to be gang members. I mean, do you trust Donald Trump at anything, yet alone to say who he believes to be a gang member from Venezuela or not? And then he's going to just on his own just send people wherever he wants to send them. A judge issued the injunction blocking Trump from doing that, but then Trump actually didn't follow the injunction. He sent a plane of Venezuelans who the Trump regime claims are gang members, but one of the things you would need to do is have to verify that. By the way, we have laws on the books that deal with gang members. And the Trump regime then sent the migrants to El Salvador, to Nayib Bukele, the leader of El Salvador. And they have concentration camps set up there. And Bukele said today the first 238 members of the Venezuelan criminal organization Tren de Aragua are in our country. I mean, the question is, are these actually gang members or not? And does Donald Trump have these war powers authorities to do this, which I think he absolutely doesn't have. And we know that in the past, Donald Trump said that he's sending, criminals to like Guantanamo Bay, and they were actually not criminals. They were just nonviolent migrants. So now we're outsourcing concentration camps to whoever Donald Trump claims to be gang members to El Salvador. And by the way, El Salvador has an exceptionally high poverty rate. They have their GDP is like in the billions as compared to the United States of America, which is like in the 40 trillion. I mean, why are we doing this? I mean, it's just one authoritarian to another. Anyway, let me know what you think. That's what's happening on Sunday. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.